Hey everyone, before we dive into today's incredible story of family drama, personal triumph, and perfect timing, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. You won't want to miss stories like this one. Trust me, this one will have you on the edge of your seat until the very end. Now, let's get into it. Chapter 1. The gathering storm, the November rain pelted against the windows of the old Victorian house in suburban Chicago, creating a rhythmic soundtrack to what would become the most significant family meeting of my life. I sat in my rental car outside 1247 Maple Street, staring at the warm yellow light spilling from the living room windows. Steeling myself for what lay ahead, my name is Marcus Chen, and at 28 I had become the family least according to my father, Robert Chen, a successful corporate lawyer who had built his reputation on winning cases and his family legacy on traditional expectations. The house before me represented everything I had walked away from 3 years ago: stability, predictability, and the suffocating weight of living someone else's dream. I checked my phone one more time. 3 missed calls from my business partner, Sarah, and 2 text messages that simply read "Urgent, call me." But tonight wasn't about TechFlow Solutions, the software startup I had been pouring my life into for the past 18 months. Tonight was about family, and the quarterly gathering that had become less of a reunion and more of a tribunal. The heavy oak door opened before I could knock. My younger sister Emma stood there, her nurse's scrubs still on from her shift at Northwestern Memorial Hospital. Her expression was a mixture of sympathy and warning. "Marcus, thank God you're here," she whispered, pulling me into a tight hug. "Dad's been pacing the living room for the past hour, muttering about teaching lessons about responsibility." Mom tried to calm him down, but you know how he gets when he's made up his mind about something. I handed her my soaked jacket, the familiar scent of Mom's jasmine candles and Dad's pipe tobacco hitting me like a wave of nostalgia mixed with dread. The house looked exactly the same. Family photos, chronicling decades of achievements, lined the hallway, with my Harvard Law School acceptance letter still framed prominently next to Emma's medical school graduation picture. Notably absent were any photos from the past 3 years of my life. "What's this about, Em?" Mom's text just said family meeting, important business matters. I kept my voice low as we walked toward the living room, where I could hear the murmur of conversation. Emma's face grew serious. "It's about Uncle Richard's inheritance. You know he passed last month." I nodded. I had attended the funeral, standing awkwardly at the back while the family gathered around the casket of Dad's older brother, a man who had always been kind to me, despite my father's disappointments. "Well, his will specified that his business shares and investment portfolio should be divided among the next generation, you, me, and our cousins. But there's a condition." My stomach dropped. "What kind of condition?" "The inheritor has to demonstrate financial responsibility and stable career prospects." According to Uncle Richard's exact words, Dad's been named as the executor, which means she didn't need to finish. Dad would decide who was worthy. The living room fell silent as we entered. Dad stood by the fireplace, his silver hair perfectly combed despite the late hour, wearing the same navy suit he wore to court. At 62, Robert Chen commanded attention without saying a word. Mom sat on the cream-colored sofa, her small frame dwarfed by the oversized cushions, worry lines etched around her gentle eyes. My cousins David and Jennifer occupied the matching chairs, both looking uncomfortable but expectant. Marcus' dad's voice carried the same tone he used with hostile witnesses. "Please, sit down." I chose the chair closest to the door, a habit I had developed during these family gatherings. Mom gave me an encouraging smile, but I could see the tension in her shoulders. "Now that we're all here," Dad began, pulling out a leather folder, "we need to discuss your Uncle Richard's estate. As you know, he was quite successful in his investments and owned significant shares in several companies. His will stipulates that his assets worth approximately $2.3 million should be distributed among his nieces and nephews." David sat up straighter. At 31, he was a successful accountant with a house in the suburbs and 2 kids. Jennifer, 26, had just made partner at her marketing firm. Both represented everything Dad valued: stability, traditional success, and most importantly, his approval. However, Dad continued, his eyes sweeping across the room before settling on me. "Richard included a clause requiring the beneficiaries to demonstrate financial stability and responsible career choices. As the executor, it's my responsibility to ensure his wishes are followed." The room felt smaller suddenly, the walls closing in, as I realized where this was heading. My phone buzzed in my pocket, another call from Sarah that I couldn't answer. "David, Jennifer." Dad's voice softened as he addressed my cousins. "Your portions are straightforward. You've both established yourselves professionally and financially. The paperwork will be ready next week." Then his gaze turned to me, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Marcus, the way he said my name carried 3 years of accumulated disappointment. "Your situation is more complicated." I felt Emma shift beside me, her hand moving protectively toward my arm. Mom's face had gone pale, and I could see her silently pleading with Dad to be gentle. "Dad," I started, but he held up his hand. "Let me finish." His lawyer's voice was back. measured and devastating. 3 years ago, you walked away from Harvard Law School. Harvard Mark has to chase some fantasy about starting a computer company. Against our advice, against common sense, and against every opportunity we provided for you. The room was dead, silent except for the rain against the windows and the soft ticking of the grandfather clock in the corner. In those 3 years, what do you have to show for it? No steady income, no assets, no stability. You're living in a one-bedroom apartment in a questionable neighborhood, driving a car that's older than your sister's medical degree, and from what I understand, your company consists of you and one other person working out of a shared office space. Each word hit like a physical blow, but I forced myself to stay silent. This wasn't new territory. Dad had made his feelings about my choices clear from the beginning, but having it laid out in front of the entire family, quantified and dissected like evidence in a court case, was somehow worse than I had expected. Now, I'm not saying this to be cruel, Dad continued, though his tone suggested otherwise. I'm saying this because Uncle Richard's will requires me to make an objective assessment. And objectively, Marcus, you have not demonstrated the financial responsibility or stable career prospects that would qualify you for this inheritance. Jennifer looked uncomfortable, staring at her hands. David cleared his throat but said nothing. Emma's grip on my arm had tightened. However, Dad said, and I felt a flicker of hope, I'm willing to reconsider if you're ready to make some changes. There's still time to reapply to law school. My firm would be happy to offer you a position once you graduate. You could still build a respectable career, still become someone this family can be proud of. The offer hung in the air like a loaded gun. I could feel everyone's eyes on me, waiting for my response. This was the moment, the crossroads that would define not just my relationship with my family, but my entire future. Dad, I said quietly, I appreciate the concern, but I'm not going back to law school. What I'm building. I laughed, a sound that came out more bitter than I intended. I just came from a family meeting where I was told I'm a failure and an embarrassment, where my father informed me that I'll never be anything because I chose to build this company. Instead of following the path he laid out for me, there was a long pause on the other end of the line. Marcus, Sarah said softly, I'm sorry. I know how much your family's approval means to you, but I hope you realize that what we've built here, what you envisioned and helped create, it's not just successful, it's extraordinary. And in about 30 minutes, you're going to walk into a room where some of the smartest people in tech are going to tell you exactly that. As I started the car and backed out of the driveway, I caught a glimpse of Emma opening the front door, probably looking for me. I felt a pang of guilt for leaving her to deal with the aftermath of the evening, but I couldn't face going back inside. Not tonight. The drive to our office in the West Loop normally took 25 minutes, but at this hour, with light traffic, I made it in 18. Our building was a converted warehouse that housed dozens of startups, freelancers, and small businesses. Most of the windows were dark, but I could see the lights on in our third-floor corner space. As I climbed the stairs, I tried to prepare myself mentally for what was about to happen. 18 months of 16-hour days, countless nights sleeping on the office couch, living on ramen noodles and determination, maxing out credit cards to keep the servers running, all of it had led to this moment. I pushed open the door to Tech Solutions, and the first thing that struck me was how professional our little space looked. Sarah had clearly cleaned up for the meeting hour. Whiteboards were organized. The extra equipment was stored neatly, and someone had brought in actual coffee instead of the instant stuff we usually survived on. 3 people in expensive suits turned as I entered, and Sarah jumped up from her desk with a smile that could have powered the entire building. Marcus, perfect timing. She gestured to our guests. I'd like you to meet Jennifer Walsh, Director of Enterprise Acquisitions, David Park, Senior Technical Analyst, and Michael Chen. She paused and grinned. No relation. Senior Vice President of Strategic Partnerships. The irony of sharing a last name with one of the Google executives wasn't lost on me, especially given the evening I'd just had with my own Chen family patriarch. Mr. Chen? Jennifer Walsh stepped forward with a confident handshake. We've been very eager to meet you. Your work on FlowSync is impressive, but more than that, your vision for business process optimization aligns perfectly with where we see the enterprise market heading. For the next 2 hours, I sat in our cramped office space while 3 Google executives walked me through their analysis of our company, their integration plans, and their vision for how FlowSync could revolutionize business workflow management on a global scale. What you and Miss Kim have created, Michael Chen explained, pulling up detailed technical charts on his laptop, solves a problem that companies like Google have been trying to crack for years. The seamless AI integration, the adaptive learning, algorithms, the user interface design, it's exactly what the enterprise market needs. David Park, the technical analyst, had spent hours reviewing our code and was effusive in his praise. I've been analyzing enterprise software for 8 years, and I've never seen a system that combines technical sophistication with user accessibility the way FlowSync does. It's genuinely revolutionary. As they spoke, I found myself thinking about Dad's words, "You'll never be anything." Here were 3 senior executives from one of the world's most successful companies, telling me that my work was revolutionary. that my vision was exactly what the market needed, that they wanted to invest $50 million in something I had created. Now let's talk about the terms. Jennifer Walsh said, opening a leather portfolio, we're prepared to offer $50 million for full acquisition, with both of you staying on as senior development leads. Your base salaries would be $300,000 each, plus equity packages that could be worth significantly more if the integration meets our projections. I glanced at Sarah, who was trying to contain her excitement. $300,000 was more than I had made in the past 3 years combined. The equity package alone would set us both up for life. There is one catch, Jennifer continued. We need your decision by Friday. The market timing is crucial for this kind of integration, and we have a narrow window to make this work optimally. I looked around our little office, the place where Sarah and I had spent countless hours debugging code, refining algorithms, and dreaming about exactly this kind of opportunity. The motivational posters we had hung, ironically, had somehow become genuinely inspiring. The whiteboard still showed our brainstorming session from last week about expanding into European markets. Mr. Chen, Michael said, leaning forward, I can see you're processing a lot right now. Is there anything specific you need to know to help you make this decision? I thought about the question seriously. What did I need to know? That this was real. They had spent 2 hours proving that we deserved this opportunity. The technical analysis made that clear, that this would change everything about my life. That was obvious. What I really needed to know was whether I was ready to leave behind the version of myself that needed my father's approval to feel successful. Whether I was prepared to bet everything on the work Sarah and I had built together, regardless of what anyone else thought about it. I need to know, I said finally, that you're not just buying our technology, that you're buying into our vision for what business workflow optimization can become. Jennifer smiled, the first genuinely warm expression I'd seen from her all evening. Mr. Chen, we're not just buying your technology, we're buying your future. And we believe that future is extraordinary. As the Google executives packed up their materials and prepared to leave, promising to send over the formal paperwork first thing in the morning, I felt something shift inside me. Not just excitement about the opportunity, but a deeper sense of validation. Marcus, Sarah said as we watched them disappear down the stairwell. Are you really okay with all this? I know tonight was rough with your family. I looked around our office one more time, then at my business partner and friend, who had believed in this vision when everyone else thought we were crazy. You know what, Sarah? For the first time in my life, I don't need anyone else to tell me I'm enough. We built something extraordinary here. We're about to change how businesses operate around the world, and we did it our way. My phone had been buzzing with messages, Emma checking on me, Mom asking me to call, even a text from Jennifer expressing concern. But there was nothing from Dad, which somehow said everything. So, Sarah grinned, are we really doing this? Are we really about to become Google employees with a $50 million success story? I smiled back, feeling lighter than I had in years. We're really doing this. And Sarah, tomorrow morning, I think I need to make a phone call to my family. Chapter 3. The sweet sound of vindication. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat in my small apartment in Logan Square, staring at the formal acquisition offer that Google had emailed at 3 a.m., 50 pages of legal documentation that essentially boiled down to, your fantasy company is worth $50 million, and we want to hire you to help us change the world. The irony was so thick I could have cut it with a knife. By 7 a.m., I had read every word of the contract twice, consulted with Sarah over the phone, and made my decision. But before I called Google back, there was something else I needed to do. Needed to call home. Emma answered on the second ring, her voice heavy with exhaustion. Marcus, oh my God, I've been so worried. Where did you go last night? Are you okay? I'm okay. Better than okay. Actually, is Dad there? He's in his study. Marcus, last night it was really bad after you left? Mom was crying, I yelled. At Dad, which you know I never do on. The whole thing just fell apart. David and Jennifer left early, and everyone's just I don't know, shaken up. I could hear the pain in my sister's voice, and I felt a pang of guilt for being the catalyst of family drama. But I also felt something else, a clarity I had never experienced before. I need you to get everyone together. Can you do that? Mom, Dad, even call David and Jennifer if you can reach them. I have something important to tell the family. Marcus, what's going on? You're scaring me. Nothing scary. Actually, it's the opposite. Just trust me, okay? Can you get everyone together at, say, 10 a.m.? There was a pause, and I could practically hear Emma thinking, okay, but Marcus, if this is some kind of confrontation or revenge thing, what you're building, his voice rose for the first time that evening. Marcus, what you're building is a fantasy. Do you have any idea how many startups fail? Do you know the statistics? 90% fail within the first year, and you're already 18 months in with nothing to show for it. I felt my composure cracking. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know anything about my company or what we've accomplished. I know enough. Dad's face was flushed now, years of frustration boiling over. I know that you're 28 years old with no real job, no savings, no plan for the future. I know that you've embarrassed this family with your irresponsible choices, and I know that Uncle Richard would be appalled to see his hard-earned money thrown away on another one of your pipe dreams." The words hit me like a slap across the face. Emma gasped audibly, and Mom finally spoke up. "Robert, please, no. Linda, someone needs to say this." Dad turned back to me, his eyes cold and final. "Marcus, I love you. You're my son, and that will never change. But I will not pretend that your choices have been anything other than irresponsible and selfish, and I will not dishonor my brother's memory by ignoring the clear intentions of his will." I stood up slowly, my legs feeling unsteady. "So that's it. You've made your decision." "I've made the only decision I can," Dad replied. "Based on the evidence before me, you do not qualify for Uncle Richard's inheritance. Unless you're willing to make serious changes to your life, the only change I need to make," I interrupted, my voice steadier than I felt, "is spending less time trying to earn the approval of people who will never give it." The silence that followed was deafening. I could hear my own heartbeat, the rain against the windows, and somewhere in the distance, the sound of my phone ringing again. Dad's expression hardened into something I had never seen before, not just disappointment, but a kind of cold finality. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but devastating. "You know what, Marcus? You're right. Stop trying to earn approval you'll never deserve." He paused, and I saw something shift in his eyes, a door closing that I wasn't sure would ever open again, because the truth is, with this attitude, with these choices, with this complete disregard for responsibility and family expectations, you'll never be anything. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Emma's intake of breath was sharp and audible. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. Even David and Jennifer looked shocked at the brutality of it. I stared at my father for a long moment, memorizing his face, knowing somehow that this moment would be seared into my memory forever. Then I turned and walked toward the door, my phone ringing insistently in my pocket. "Marcus, wait," Emma called after me, but I was already in the hallway, grabbing my jacket from the hook by the door. "Marcus." Mom's voice was pleading, but I couldn't turn around. If I looked back, if I saw the pain in her eyes, or the satisfaction in Dad's, I might not be able to leave. I yanked open the front door, and the cold November rain hit my face like a wake-up call. Behind me, I could hear urgent whispers and Emma's voice rising in anger, probably giving Dad a piece of her mind. But I was already walking to my car, my phone still buzzing with calls from Sarah. As I sat in the driver's seat, hands shaking as I tried to start the engine, I finally looked at my phone, 7 missed calls, and a text message that made my heart stop. "Marcus, call me immediately. Google wants to buy TechFlow. They're offering $50 million. We need to talk now." Chapter 2. The call that changed everything. I stared at the text message, reading it 3 times before the words finally penetrated the fog of hurt and anger clouding my mind. The rain drummed against the roof of my Honda Civic, a car that was indeed older than Emma's medical degree, as Dad had so helpfully pointed out while I sat in the driveway of my childhood home, trying to process what I was seeing. Google. $50 million. TechFlow Solutions, the fantasy company that had just cost me my inheritance, and apparently my father's respect, was wanted by one of the biggest tech companies in the world. My hands were shaking as I dialed Sarah's number. She answered on the first ring. "Marcus, thank God. Where have you been? I've been trying to reach you for hours." Sarah's voice was electric with excitement and anxiety. "Are you sitting down?" "I'm in my car," I managed, my voice still hoarse. "From the confrontation with Dad?" "Sarah, I got your text, but I need you to tell me this is real. Please tell me this isn't some kind of mistake." "It's real, Marcus. It's so real that I'm sitting in our office at 11 p.m. with 3 Google executives, who flew in from Mountain View specifically to meet with us. They want to acquire TechFlow and they want to do it fast." I closed my eyes, leaning back against the headrest. 18 months ago, Sarah, Kim, and I had started TechFlow Solutions in a cramped shared workspace in downtown Chicago. Sarah was a brilliant software engineer who had been laid off from her previous job, and I was a Harvard Law dropout with a vision for streamlining business workflow automation. We had met at a networking event for entrepreneurs, bonded over our shared frustration with inefficient business processes, and decided to build something better. Our flagship product, FlowSync, was an AI-powered workflow management system that could integrate with any existing business infrastructure and automatically optimize processes in real. We had started with small businesses, then medium-sized companies, and over the past 6 months, we had landed several Fortune 500 clients who were seeing efficiency improvements of 40 to 60%. But Google, this was beyond our wildest dreams. "How did this happen?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "How did Google even know about us? Remember that case study we did with Morrison Industries last month? The one where we helped them reduce their supply chain processing time by 50%. Sarah's excitement was infectious. Apparently, someone at Google's Enterprise Solutions division saw the results and started digging into our technology. "Marcus, they've been watching us for weeks. I could hear voices in the background, professional, animated conversations that sounded like the kind of high-stakes business meetings I had only seen in movies. They're calling FlowSync revolutionary, Sarah continued. They want to integrate it into Google Workspace and scale it globally. Marcus, we're talking about potentially helping millions of businesses worldwide. The irony wasn't lost on me. 20 minutes ago, I had been sitting in a living room being told I would never be anything by the man whose approval I had spent my entire life seeking. Now I was being told that the work I had poured my heart into for the past 18 months was worth $50 million to one of the most powerful companies on earth. What exactly are they offering? I asked, forcing myself into business mode despite the emotional whiplash. $50 million for full acquisition, but here's the beautiful part, they want us to stay on as the development leads. They're offering both of us senior positions in their enterprise division, plus equity packages that could be worth millions more if the integration is successful. I sat in stunned silence, watching the rain streak down my windshield. Through the living room window of my family's house, I could see shadowy figures still gathered in what was probably an intense discussion about my dramatic exit and Dad's harsh words. Marcus, are you still there? I'm here, I said quietly. Sarah, this is incredible, but I need to ask, are you sure about this? Are you sure this isn't too good to be true? I had the same thought, she admitted. So I asked them to show me their documentation, their technical assessment of our system, everything. Marcus, they've done a complete analysis of FlowSync. They know our code better than some of our own clients do. This is legitimate. My phone beeped with another Kalema was trying to reach me. I let it go to voicemail. There's more, Sarah continued. They want to make the announcement next week, but they need both of us to sign off on the deal by Friday. The Google team flew out here specifically to meet with you tonight. They're waiting in our office right now. I looked at the clock on my dashboard, 11:47 p.m. These executives had flown from California to Chicago, and were waiting in our cramped shared office space at nearly midnight to meet with me. The same fantasy company that Dad had dismissed so thoroughly that Google considered worth $50 million. I'll be there in 30 minutes, I said. Marcus, Witar, you okay? You sound ... I don't know. Strange? Did something happen?